And good night.
November 11th, 1983. Reagan goes to South Korea. Arafat holds on in Tripoli. And the nation honors its veterans. From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. President Reagan's visit to Japan is officially over. On this third and last day in Tokyo, Mr. Reagan had a warning for the Soviet Union. If arms control talks don't succeed, he said, the United States could be forced to achieve clear-cut military superiority over the Soviet Union. With a full report on the President's Day in Japan and what's ahead in Korea, here's Pierre Salinger in Tokyo.
Peter, the President's last day in Tokyo was marked by a speech to the National Parliament, the Diet, and a folksy visit at the country home of Japanese Prime Minister Nakasone. ABC's White House correspondent, Sam Donaldson, appraises Mr. Reagan's Japanese visit.
The Emperor said goodbye just as he'd said hello, as the events of the President's last 24 hours in Japan managed to repeat all the main themes of his visit. Before the Diet, or Parliament, there was his call for common purpose against a common Soviet foe.
The United States and Japan do not build walls to keep our people in, and we would never cold-bloodedly shoot a defenseless airliner out of the sky.
And there was a call for peace nuclear-sensitized Japanese wanted to hear.
A nuclear war can never be won and must never be fought.
And there was a call for lowering trade barriers the Japanese didn't want to hear.
We need your support to lower further the barriers that still make it difficult for some American products to enter your markets easily.
None of the problems between the two nations were solved in this trip, but this presidential pressure might pay off down the road. And the Japanese, who have worried that Mr. Reagan is trigger-happy, received a calculated presidential effort to dispel that image, as in this television interview program.
For hardline policy.
What is being called a hard line, I think, is realism.
And on the other side, the Nakasone side, the Prime Minister's image-making, a close friend of the American president, continued. Over a country estate lunch, and a cup or two of sake. Others may scoff, but Secretary of State Schultz called the visit to Japan a big success and predicted the same for Korea, notwithstanding North Korea's blustery threats against Mr. Reagan's safety there.
The president will, of course, keep his cool, and at the same time, he is not a person who will be intimidated.
So it's off to Korea, where a few hours from now the president will address the Korean National Assembly. He'll condemn the Rangoon bombing and the Korean airline massacre, and he'll reassure the Koreans that the United States' commitment remains firm. Sam Donaldson, ABC News, Tokyo.
The spotlight of President Reagan's trip now turns to another key Asian country, South Korea. This has been a dramatic and cruel year for the South Koreans, with the shooting down of their 747 jet by the Soviet Union and the assassination of 4 members of their cabinet in Rangoon, Burma, a crime attributed to North Korea. All this has obviously heightened the tension on the border which separates South Korea from its northern communist neighbor. ABC's Mark Litke tells us about the U.S. presence on that frontier and how Mr. Reagan's defense policies are seen in South Korea.
Short of all-out war, the U.S. 2nd Infantry Division could not be any closer to the enemy. This mine-infested stretch of the Korean demilitarized zone is the most forward-deployed combat position in the U.S. Army, with North Korean soldiers only a few hundred yards away.
Everybody's got a job. We're all soldiers. We're all here to defend the country. Not just our country, but the Republic of Korea.
And while Americans only complement the much larger South Korean forces, many still see the American presence here as the main deterrent to a communist invasion. And that is what President Reagan will reaffirm when he visits the front line on Sunday.
But while virtually everyone in this country believes in the need for a strong national defense and supports America's role in it, there are critics of the South Korean government who have serious concerns about President Reagan's visit here.
Since former General Chun Doo-won grabbed power 3 years ago, South Korean dissidents say repression has grown worse. In the name of national security, hundreds have been jailed or banned from politics. And Kim Dae-jung, the country's leading dissident, was forced into exile in the U.S. Kim fears that by overemphasizing Korea's security needs, President Reagan's visit will only help strengthen the military's grip on this country.
We only ask Reagan not to support military dictator. Reagan should be neutral.
While the opposition here is not opposed to the presence of U.S. troops, they warn that anti-American sentiment will grow if the U.S. continues to support only Korea's military needs and not the democratic needs of its people. Mark Litkey, ABC News at the Korean DMZ.
With Mr. Reagan gone, there will be a lively debate here about Japan's defense policies. Prime Minister Nakasone may agree with Mr. Reagan about the Soviet threat. But the first reactions to the Reagan visit in Japan indicate Mr. Nakasone still has a long way to go before he convinces his own nation it needs to be a powerful military force as well as a powerful economic force. Peter?
In Lebanon today, Palestinian fighters, both for and against the PLO chairman Yasser Arafat, continue to violate the ceasefire which other Arabs thought they'd worked out yesterday. One of the Lebanese leaders who sides with Syria against Arafat has asked him to leave the city of Tripoli. Those who support Arafat haven't declared themselves, and Arafat hasn't left. In Moscow today, a meeting between the Syrian and Soviet foreign ministers. The Soviets are reported to be asking the Syrians to ease up on Arafat. The Syrians are reportedly worried about an American attack on their Lebanese positions. Across the United States today, the food for thought has been past wars. It's Veterans Day, of course, that one day at least every year when so many Americans remember the men and women who have given their lives in the nation's service. Here's ABC's Jack Smith.
It's a day for remembering the more than 1 million Americans who've died in the nation's 9 wars. They've been long wars, short wars, popular wars, and unpopular wars. But this is a day when Americans traditionally set aside politics and just remember the veteran and the values he fought for.
No, I'm not bitter about any sacrifices I made to serve my country. You serve, you sacrifice, and you thank God that you're a citizen of the greatest nation the world has ever seen.
There were the traditional ceremonies at Arlington Cemetery, and over at the Vietnam Memorial, they remembered as well. 68 new names were recently added to the Wall of the Dead, men overlooked on old casualty lists. Captain Harry Kramer, he died in an accident in Vietnam in 1957, 2 years before the previous first known casualty. But this was not a Veterans Day like any other. At Fort Bragg, North Carolina, more men of the 82nd Airborne came home today from Grenada. 18 servicemen died there, 239 in Beirut, and that made this day different. New York City had its traditional Veterans Day parade, and in places like Indianapolis, Indiana, they turned out as well. But in Jacksonville, Florida, there was a funeral. 19-year-old Marine John Blocker. He died in the Beirut bombing. And in Dearborn, Michigan, grade school children read from letters they'd written relatives of the dead Marines.
I just can't believe what people will do. It doesn't seem real.
Grenada left its traces, too. At Andrews Air Force Base outside Washington, the military proudly displayed trophies from America's most recent conflict. Were the lives lost in Grenada really worth it? No one was asking, not here, or in Atlanta, Georgia, where the names of some of the men who died in Beirut were read out loud.
Sergeant Val S. Lewis of Atlanta. Staff Sergeant Charlie R. Martin of Coleman.
All across the country, this was a day for remembering, that's all. A Navy chaplain put it best recently. I don't know why, he said, young men must die. You would think it would break the heart of God. A day just for remembering, Veterans Day, 1983.
We'll be back with the rest of the news in just a moment.
This is World News Tonight, brought to you by Ford Motor Company.
You're about to see the Ford Ranger leap to new heights in quality. Based on a survey of owner-reported problems during the first 3 months, Ranger quality was unbeaten by any major small truck maker. And Ranger has V6 power, more horsepower than Chevy S10 of the imports, and a wider cab than any small truck. For toughness, horsepower, and unbeaten quality, it's Ranger down-to-earth tough. The best-built American trucks are built. Ford Tough.
Does it sometimes seem as though today's coffee tastes like yesterday's?
When are you going to make some fresh coffee?
Daddy!
coffee is fresh.
Maybe the problem isn't your coffee brand, but your coffee filter.
I threw out the old coffee.
Old? I just made it.
There's one coffee filter that gives you pure, fresh coffee flavor. No sediment, no bitterness. Mr. Coffee Filters. If you're going to own America's perfect coffee maker, shouldn't you be using America's preferred coffee filters?
Now here's our business correspondent, Stephen Ogg. Tonight, farms and businesses in trouble, even during this time of economic recovery.
Nearly 1,400 farms were sold last year to pay off government loans, up 60% from the previous year. And even though we're in a big recovery, business failures are up sharply. Dun & Bradstreet says more than 26,000 firms have gone out of business so far this year, up nearly 22% from last year, and running at the highest rate since 1933. One reason? After past recessions, interest rates always fell, but this time they're still unusually high. And because the recession was so long, many firms just couldn't keep up their loan payments and simply gave up. On Wall Street, prices up again. The Dow rose more than 14 points in quiet holiday trading. And a nice gain for the week as well, up nearly 32 points. Still, some brokers say it's just a technical rally, traders buying after a long downturn. That's Money Matters for Friday. I'm Stephen Ogg.
Hello, where's my package? My job depends on it.
What is the airbill number that it was sent out on? When did you send that out? It should be at the particular company that you sent it to. I can get the information confirmed for you. I'll up a trace to get the...
In the Air Express business, fast talking is funny for commercials, but sad in real life. At Airborne, we don't talk fast, we move fast. So fast that we make most of our deliveries before 10:30 a.m. No wonder more people are switching to Airborne than ever before. So watch out, Federal. Here comes Airborne.
It splits the dark with a powerful beam. Spotlighter rechargeable light from Black & Decker. A light built so strong it can survive a drop of 6 feet. Spotlighter stores all the power you need in its own recharging base. So on a moment's notice, it gives you light. Light for your safety, light for your peace of mind. Black & Decker Spotlighter. It's one utility light that does more than just shine.
If you've been following the latest congressional cliffhanger over a money bill to keep 7 federal agencies operating, it now appears a compromise is in the works. The bill contains $99 million for social programs, and there is still a chance the president will veto it. But the House and the Senate hope to pass the bill tomorrow. The 7 agencies technically went broke today, but it's a federal holiday, so it didn't make a lot of difference. Crime is an ugly fact of life in many big city high schools. It has been particularly bad this year in some Detroit schools. So bad that some of the city's 3,000 police reservists have been called to duty in the corridors. It is just one example, as Joe Spencer reports, of how Detroit school officials are fighting back.
Charmaine Jones and Tommy Henderson used to fear being ripped off or injured at Mumford High, one of the toughest schools in Detroit.
There was a time when kids couldn't even wear their coats on around here without somebody coming around and taking them off or getting a gun in your face.
But since a security crackdown, coming here is no longer an ordeal.
Now everyone's in class or wearing IDs. The halls are empty. I can wear my chain now without fear of it being taken off.
Security has been beefed up in the wake of 3 fatal shootings or stabbings at Detroit high schools since September. Though violence in schools is a national issue, Detroit is an example of the problem at its worst, and school officials have come under pressure to improve security.
Students found in possession of a gun will be automatically and permanently expelled from the Detroit public schools.
Random police searches have been ordered. Officers using metal detectors have turned up a variety of weapons and drugs. Until this week, Officer Don Kirkwood was the only city policeman assigned to Mumford High.
There's been instances where I've been right in the middle of a fight or right in the middle of a gang-type war.
Today, Kirkwood was assisted by 7 volunteer police reservists. Many of these non-paid but trained officers have family members here.
I have a brother here, and I don't want to see him get hurt or any type of trouble.
The heavy police presence is expected to remain through at least this school year. Joe Spencer, ABC News, Detroit.
Bad weather, at least winter weather, continues to move east across the country. Gale force winds battered much of the Great Lakes region today. In Chicago, 12-foot waves washed up overnight from Lake Michigan, flooding sections of Lakeshore Drive. Many motorists were caught by surprise. Ashley Bailey, the 14-month-old infant who received President Reagan's help in looking for a liver transplant, died today in Texas. She had been in and out of the hospital since May. Despite the president's help, no suitable donor was ever found.
You're about to see a dishwasher clean dishes like never before and save energy at the same time. Announcing the Whirlpool Power Clean Energy Saver Dishwasher with a patented washing system that gives you unbeatably clean dishes, yet uses 20% less hot water in the normal cycle than any dishwasher we've ever built. And like our washers and refrigerators, it comes with the Whirlpool promise to give you your money's worth and make your world a little easier.
There are multivitamins, and there are multivitamins. Vitamins that are flaky, bumpy, crispy, crunchy, and taste oh so good. It's new Kellogg's Product 19. More vitamin nutrition than any other cereal. But you'd never know by tasting, because Product 19 goodness comes from corn, oats, wheat, and rice. Delicious. New Kellogg's Product 19 cereal. Flaky, bumpy, crispy, crunchy. Vitamins.
The votes have finally been counted, and the effort to ban nuclear weapons research in Cambridge, Massachusetts, has failed. World News Tonight will continue.
We're beginning our descent into the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport.
Good. This is an American Airlines flight attendants class, a training program so selective only 1 out of 200 applicants is accepted. Here's Shelley Hughes, learn to give you the best flight possible, and she'll continue to receive even more training. We taught Shelley a lot, but some things we didn't have to teach her.
Happy birthday.
We're American Airlines, doing what we do best.
The eggs are fresh. The cream is real. Cheese, not 1, but 3 kinds. It's new Porriquiche from Land O'Lakes, where our fresh goods and your good cooking get together. Here's all the filling you need for quiche. Pour into a pie shell. Bake. It's easy as that. Good as you'd expect from Land O'Lakes. New Porriquiche in your grocer's freezer.
Since last August, the government of El Salvador has been holding Pedro Alvarado. He publicly confessed to the murder of U.S. Lieutenant Colonel Albert Schaffelberger, who was shot last May. Well, today the State Department said that its own investigation shows Alvarado did not commit the murder, and that his confession was obtained under duress. Schaffelberger is the only American military advisor to be killed in El Salvador. There is not much happening today on the island of Grenada, which is exactly how the islanders like it. A number of bodies are reportedly being flown from Grenada to Barbados, where they'll be examined. At least some of them are believed to be Cubans who died during the fighting. Cuba's losses have been heavy as a result of the U.S. invasion, and as Barry Serafin reports from Havana, it is a loss to be measured in more than lives and money.
Over and over, for a week, a grim Fidel Castro saw the Cubans he sent to Grenada return home to Havana. Each time, the scene had all the trappings of a hero's welcome, but it has clearly been a bitter ritual for Cuba's president. The end of Castro's influence in Grenada, however, is not the end of his ambitions outside of Cuba. There are still thousands of Cubans in Nicaragua, including about 2,000 troops, and a small number of Cuban military advisors in Guyana. But Castro's reach extends beyond Latin America. U.S. sources conservatively estimate that Cuba has about 38,000 troops in various countries, most of them in Africa. And there are thought to be another 15,000 Cuban civilians, doctors, teachers, technicians, and construction workers in about 24 countries, from Iraq to Tanzania, Libya to Laos. What accounts for such a global effort by such a small country? Western diplomats in Havana say it's more than Cuba's role as a Soviet proxy. Cuba's communist ideology itself asserts the right and duty to aid in revolution. What's more, Cuba's drive for education has created too many professionals for too few jobs at home. Overseas duty eases Cuba's education glut. And there is Castro's own revolutionary zeal and grand view of Cuba's role. For him, says one diplomat, this country of 10 million is too small. At home, Castro has successfully used the conflict in Grenada to rekindle his revolution. And there have been the expected predictions from Cuban officials about writing the final chapter in Grenada.
Grenada one day will return to the popular, revolutionary, democratic path that was following his bishop, and certainly the Cubans will be back also at that time.
But despite such talk, and despite Castro's view of Cuba's Marxist mission, Western diplomats here say Grenada was an important setback for Castro. Most believe he will be more cautious now, not pulling Cubans out of other countries, but not stepping up his activities either. Castro himself seemed to confirm that in his last press conference. He warned that the U.S. would face much tougher opposition in invading Nicaragua than it encountered in Grenada. But he also served notice that Nicaragua could not expect Cuban reinforcements if invaded. We would face the same problems as in Grenada, he said. We lack the naval and air means to send direct assistance. Those are the facts. Castro is expected to make a major speech after the bodies of Cuba's dead are returned from Grenada. Castro watchers, though, will look beyond the speech to see what Cuba does. Grenada has thrown Fidel Castro off stride. But among observers here, admirers and critics agree that he will be patient and persistent in pursuing what he sees as Cuba's revolutionary destiny. Barry Serafin, ABC News, Havana.
It'll be 1 year tomorrow since Yuri Andropov came to power in the Soviet Union. In some respects, he's come farther and faster than any of his predecessors. He holds the three key jobs in the Soviet bureaucracy. He's the president, the chairman of the Communist Party, and chairman of the Defense Council. On paper, his authority is unchallenged. He's also a sick man. As ABC's Bob Zelnick reports on his first anniversary, there is already speculation about his successor.
Political changes usually march to funeral cadence in the Soviet Union. Leonid Brezhnev had been ill for years before his death, and the machinery of the Soviet state had sagged under the weight of his disabilities. Yuri Andropov was selected for his intellectual energy and commitment to results. Now Andropov, too, is ailing. His absence from several recent events, including Monday's Revolution Day parade, and his history of heart and kidney disorders, have combined to trigger analysis among diplomats here as to who might succeed him. Not counting Andropov, there are 10 current members of the ruling Politburo. 4 are given a shot at the top job. One is Konstantin Chernenko, Brezhnev's old crony and Andropov's rival in last year's leadership contest. Now 72 and himself in frail health, Chernenko is a long shot. A strong contender is Mikhail Gorbachev, only 52. An agricultural specialist, Gorbachev headed a Soviet mission to Canada last spring and has been given important authority to weed out ineffective party bureaucrats. Gorbachev's strongest challenger is 60-year-old Grigory Romanov, formerly the heavy-handed boss of Leningrad, who led a Soviet delegation to East Germany last April to discuss party ideology. Given an outsider's chance is Deputy Premier Gaidar Aliyev, an economist and former KGB man shown during a recent tour of Vietnam. Any new general secretary will find relations with the United States drifting dangerously toward confrontation.
In his first speech as General Secretary, Andropov declared that the future belongs to détente. Instead, his heirs seem likely to inherit a relationship with Washington characterized by insult and bitterness. In terms of dealing with the United States, whoever comes after Yuri Andropov will have to start from scratch. Bob Zelnick, ABC News, Moscow.
Beginning next week on this broadcast, we'll be presenting a 10-part series, The U.S. and the USSR, A Balance of Powers. We'll try to explore the complicated relationship between this nation and the Soviet Union.
Bob, we've got rats! Thank goodness a neighbor told us about Decon Rat Killer, the clean way to kill dirty rats. Rat traps are scary and messy, and exterminators can mess up your budget. Decon bait is inexpensive, clean, and sure. Rats just eat themselves to death. No wonder Decon is the #1 rat killer in homes all over America. Decon is the clean way to kill dirty rats and mice.
When it's cold, some like it hot. Grape Nuts Hot, the hearty goodness of Grape Nuts cereal all warmed up.
It's the perfect thing for a cold morning.
And it's easy. Just take our savory blend of wholesome wheat and barley, add milk, butter, golden honey, and cook for 1 minute. You'll love the special kind of creaminess you can really sink your teeth into.
Yummy!
Because when it's cold, some like it hot. Post Grape Nuts cereal.
Tonight on Nightline, the JFK assassination. Some still believe it was a plot. We'll look at the theories. And Sunday on This Week with David Brinkley, the guests include Secretary of State Schultz on President Reagan's trip and foreign policy.
Cobble tonight, Brinkley Sunday.
No lights. And I was dreaming of a bright Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho. At Ace, we light up your Christmas with the Noma 100 Mini Light Set. Multicolor or clear bulbs, safe indoors and out. A November Best Buy at $444.
Here's another Best Buy you can count on. The Sharp Solar Calculator. Runs on any kind of light, never needs batteries. And Best Buy priced at $697.
For me,
Merry Christmas.
Ace is the place.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware man.
To get ahead in business these days, you've got to be fast. You not only have to be fast, you have to be faster than the next guy. And as fast as you are, there's always someone else who thinks he's faster than you. And the faster you go, the faster everyone else tries to get ahead of you. And the faster you have to go to keep up with the fastest. And no matter how fast you go, everyone everywhere is always trying to be faster. So you have to be really fast, tremendously fast, incredibly fast, or you fall behind someone else who is faster. Faster than Jimmy, faster than Joey, faster than Janie, and faster than...
To get ahead in business these days, you have to go with a company who invented the whole idea of fast. Federal Express. Why fool around with anyone else?
Hoppity-toe, wickety-whack, flippity-flop, jiminy-criminy, whoopity-scoopity, zoom it, move it, rocket.
And now a story of high school football of which everybody should approve. A lot of high school football teams around the country are wrapping up their seasons this weekend. Chris Bury has found one very special team in Illinois which made it to the playoffs on something more than a lot of practice and hard work.
When the Illinois high school football playoffs began this week, the Tigers stood out. What set them apart was the roar of the crowd. They couldn't hear it. The Tigers play for the Illinois School for the Deaf, the conference champions.
It proves to our young deaf individuals that they can compete. They can compete against anyone and everyone.
I think we can win. We have a chance to win and score off of them.
The Tigers are in their dress rehearsal for Act 1 of the playoffs, the big game against arch-rival Triopia.
We're going to try to fool them, run opposite, okay?
In the huddle, sign language directs the offense. On the line, the quarterback signals by touch because he can't call for the hike.
We have a big problem with communication on the field.
For those who cannot hear, it is a struggle learning to communicate in a speaking world.
50.
For that reason, most deaf students study trades where their work can speak for itself. But there is no shortage of talk in their world, especially during the week of the big game. At the pep rally, cheerleaders spelled out words that raised the roof. The school has no band, but none was needed. There was no mistaking the message. But the big game got off to a bad start. By halftime, the Tigers were down 28-0. Fans were seeking all the help they could find. Shell Whitaker threw a touchdown in the third quarter, sending his father up in the air.
Well, it's a wonder you're not reaching up here. I feel that high.
The touchdown came too late. The Tigers lost 42-6. But for the team and its fans, the numbers on the board weren't the only score. They could claim a victory without winning the game. Chris Bury, ABC News, Jacksonville, Illinois.
And one final note. As most of you know, it is 20 years this month since President Kennedy was assassinated. Later this evening, ABC News will present a 2-hour broadcast on the Kennedy presidency. We think you'll find it a compelling program. It's on the air at 9 o'clock, 8 Central Time. I hope you'll join me then. In the meantime, for everyone at ABC News, I'm Peter Jennings. Good evening.
From ABC, this has been World News Tonight.
It was the best of times,
A new generation of Americans has taken leadership of this country.
and it was the worst of times for those who remember and those who never knew. The first critical look at the man and his presidency with Peter Jennings, JFK, tonight on ABC.
Here's the story of Billy Mills, who ran in the Olympics in borrowed shoes.
What happens to these Indian boys? They are gifted, natural runners, but they have no discipline.
Hey, except for the team and the tribe.
I want you to be a winner.
I don't know what that means anymore. It wasn't how Billy Mills finished. It was where he started that made him a champion. Running Brave, rated PG.
Now playing at the Cinema North, Cinema South, and Hickory Hollow.
This is your Christmas for a waterbed, and at Country Boy Waterbeds, prices start at only $149. Our buttonwood is only $189, and you can buy our San Diego bookcase bed for only $199.